Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome to the end of the world. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Lauren. Thank you for being here. Hello, welcome. It's wonderful to have you. And in today's video, I wanted to share with you some of my tips and basically a full walkthrough of how I make my self-portrait images with my phone. Hi, Editing Lauren here. Apologies for my dishwasher going, but I wanted to quickly say that I'm going to have timestamps of everything in the description bar down below. So if you want to fast forward to any different part in the video, because I tend to be a little bit chatty in this video, you can look down below. There's a full table of contents for the timestamps for everything down there. So, okay, bye. I live by the philosophy that the best camera is the one you have with you, and the best light is the light that you have available to you. And so I wanted to sort of give myself a little bit of a challenge, quote unquote, to make an image with only my cell phone. And I really want to show you guys that you don't need a fancy camera, you don't need fancy lighting equipment, you don't even need fancy editing software in order to make really interesting, compelling images. So that's what we're going to be doing today, which will be fun because I will now have my real camera here, hello, real camera, to film it, and I will be shooting on my phone. This is an iPhone 10. So I asked you guys on Instagram what sort of image you wanted me to make today, whether that be more conceptual, more portrait, or more editorial, things like that. And so let me see what you guys said. Kind of got a little bit of everything actually. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of a little bit of everything. So I think I'm gonna stick to something a little bit more minimal on the conceptual side. One of the best things to keep in mind with photography, and with, I mean, probably doing anything in general, is that you can have this really great, amazing, cool, complex idea, but if it isn't executed well or properly, it tends to fall short, and I find that it's a lot better to have a simple but concrete idea or concept that's executed really, really well. Because you can have the best idea in the world, but if it doesn't actually look good, then, you know, there's and this gets into the whole philosophy of what is art, you know, is the purpose of art the making of it, or is the purpose of it the end product, and what even is art? That's a different video. So I always say go for the simple idea that can be executed really well. Of course, always experiment and do new things. I'm gonna try and do something new today, I think, as well. I'm also gonna give you guys a couple different ideas for things that you can use even just around your house as well, like props and things like that. I tend to have weirder props because I already do this for a living, so I'll try and stick to the more normal props that maybe everybody has. Okay, I've rambled on enough. Let's get into the video. I like how I literally just finished that clip by saying I'm very excited to be shooting on my real camera, but now I'm here filming on my phone still. But I figured I would just show it to you guys as per what it would look like in the camera right here. One of my big tips, and I guess fun things to experiment with when you're making portraits, is to shoot with different objects between the subject and the camera. People do this all the time. It's very fun. It's really exciting. You never quite know what you're gonna get from it. So I've found a few objects around my home. Some everybody will have, some probably only I have because I'm a photographer. I figured I'd show you really quickly what it looks like when you put it in front of the lens. Not necessarily, I mean, obviously this background is just my house, and I would pick a better background for a real photo, but I have this little rainbow prism thing. I got it from Amazon, but it's really fun because when the sunlight shines through the window in the afternoon, it makes these beautiful little rainbows on the wall, which is also a fun thing for pictures. But you can also put this in front of the camera lens and it creates all of these very cool, wow. And so you can see it is a very fun sort of play around with. I haven't quite perfected it for my client work yet. I bring it to every shoot and take it out for a couple seconds, and this isn't very good for actual photography because the lens on a big camera is a lot bigger, but the iPhone lens tends to be pretty small, so this covers the entire screen. So this is, I might actually shoot with this today, we'll see. I also got this ornament that has now turned into a cat toy. This is really cool to add some sort of reflective element to the image. You could also do this with a mirror, and depending on what it's reflecting, it can be really, really interesting. And then I also have this little random jar thing. I like the lid on this. That's kind of an interesting texture, but not necessarily. But I mean, you can definitely do something like this. That would be a really interesting image. I mean, you can also even bring it closer to your face too. It doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, I don't know. Who knows? You could do, I don't know what you could do with this. You could do something. And then I also got this green one. Oh yeah, that's really interesting. Like underwater. You like my model pose. And then I also brought this thing of Scotch tape. It gives us this really interesting fogged effect. And then if you have clear tape, that's also really interesting. And then you have this really interesting texture of like the angles of the light. Oh yeah, that's really neat. I might actually shoot with this one. And that gives you just really nice texture and light information in your image that's like really unique and cool. And then I also got this tool. Probably not everybody has this, but you can find it pretty cheaply. But this is also very interesting for images. You can layer it. That's always cool. I mean, so like you're propped up on my windowsill right now, so in theory I could even just like tape this to the wall. This would even be great too to eliminate like all of the distractions in the background if I did want to shoot right here. Make like a little hello over the lens. That's very interesting. So yeah, there's really no limit to the random things that you can find around your house that would make an interesting image. Even shooting like painting with acrylic paint on like a pane of glass, that's also a really interesting effect. I love doing that for images. I've actually made a video where I've done that before. You can also get things like dried flowers, live flowers, anything like that. I mean, you can get even more complex props. So yeah, there's really no limit to like the daily objects that you have around your house that you can use to create an interesting texture or like light element to your image. And it makes it even more fun and exciting. It's so much fun. Okay, so we'll move on to the next part now. All right, let's open up our phone camera here. So I have my Dungeons and Dragons character set up, and I want to show you guys just a couple quick tools with at least the iPhone. It's going to be different for every single phone, but I want to show you a couple of the tools that I use with the built-in camera that I utilize. So first and foremost is the autofocus and exposure lock on this. It's not perfect. It will reset the exposure pretty quickly, but what you can do is usually when you can just tap on the image and it will select the focus and the exposure for that little square. You can click and hold onto this until you have the AE/AF lock, and then you can drag it up or down to change the brightness or the darkness of the image. So especially if you're shooting in natural light where there's a strong directional light coming in towards you, you usually want to set the exposure to be a little bit lower, because the iPhone tends to blow out the images and make them brighter than they should. And then here you can also have a self-timer right here, depending on what you're going to be doing. I'll also show you a trick with the iPhone where you can have your own remote with it. And then it just counts down from the time that you set and will take the pictures. So this is great for even more complex images that you're trying to make where you can't be standing right there to click the shutter button. And then what it actually does is it takes a burst of 10 images, so then you can just go down here to select and you can choose each of the 10 frames for your final image. So this is good if you want to do like a couple different poses really quickly so that you can have a selection to choose from within one click of the shutter basically. Portrait mode is also really great, but I won't be using portrait mode today because not everybody has portrait mode, but it's also really fun and you can set different lighting things with it. I don't really play with these too much, but they are fun and are a great option to have. Also, if you have an iPhone, you can actually use your headphones as a trigger for the camera, which is really nice because then you don't have extended arm in all of your pictures. But so I have it hooked up and then you literally just click the volume up button and it will take a picture. Wow, so exciting. This comes in handy so much. It's super helpful. Also, if you have like a selfie stick, like selfie sticks are dumb, but they're actually very useful for taking self-portraits. Who would have thought? But they're also really great to use, especially if you want to get at a certain angle where your phone can't rest easily, because then you have the entire stick that you can sort of prop up different places. So yeah, let's go ahead and start working on this image. Let's do this. I just set up my camera. I've propped it up on our bar cart and then I have the tape dispenser propped in front of the lens. So since the camera is tilt slightly this way, I am going to then tilt my body in the same direction. That way it doesn't look like my head is small and then the rest of me is disproportionate to that. I'm going to instead lean in this direction so that we're all so that my entire body is on the same level as the camera. I have my natural lighting right here. I really actually like how it looks right here with just the natural lighting. I'll probably throw in some directional light behind me just to play around with it, but I actually really like how the natural light is looking. Especially with my dark background, I'm still getting some really nice brightness and contrast, even without needing to add other lights. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and start shooting and playing with the Scotch tape, and we'll see how it goes. So I've moved around just a little bit. I'm literally sitting in the exact same spot, but now I've closed the blinds and I've moved my lamp over here and tilted it down. This is one of those... Sindri, please. What are you doing? This light is really nice because it tilts up and down. You can also twist the bulb. So it makes it actually pretty easy for self-portraits and backlighting things, and I use this light all the time, even for like my professional grade photos. Not that these aren't professional grade, please, I'm a professional here. I only do professional things here. So I have the light, I have my phone camera set up right here, and I think I'm just gonna take some moody portraits. Might bring in the tool, might not, might see if Sindri is willing to be in a couple pictures, but we'll see. So yeah, let's get to it. Now I am in my phone. Sometimes I will shoot a lot more than this, sometimes I will shoot a lot less than this, sometimes I will come to this point in the workflow and realize that I don't like any of these pictures, but I'm getting closer to what I do want or getting farther away from what I want, and I will continue on from there to see what things I need to change. So what I'll do is I'll go through all of these images and I will actually just favorite some of the photos, whichever photos that I find are contenders for my final. So let me go through all of these really quickly. Then what I usually do is I usually come in and bring it into Lightroom actually. As you can tell, it's mostly pictures of Sindri in here. And I will usually take it into here, but today I'm going to show you guys a different app. So I also use Snapseed a lot. I believe it's like $2, but it's probably the best $2 you'll ever spend on an app. As you can tell, I have a lot of distracting elements. I didn't care too much about trying to get this out of the frame because I wanted to show you guys this tool, but it's far better to clean up the background in camera versus in post. So one of the things that's really amazing about Snapseed is that you can have this healing brush. So I'm gonna see if I can get rid of this thing in here. There we go, pretty good, pretty good. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty good. And then also with Snapseed, you can also change brightness, contrast, saturation, all of these kinds of things. I usually bring my highlights down a little bit, and then I usually bring my shadows up a little bit, just to give the image a more dynamic range so that when I bring back in the contrast, I still don't lose details in the highlights or the shadows. This app has a lot of neat stuff. You can also add text, you can add double exposure, you can add a vignette here. So maybe I'll add a vignette and kind of center it around right here. That will also help clean up my background a little bit, so then you won't even really notice the imperfection of the things that I cloned out. So I'd say that looks pretty good. And then I'm also going to crop it too. So then once you're done, you can just export. I might do a little bit more editing on this, just a little bit, but that's a great app. If you're also wanting to, here, let me switch you. If you're also wanting to take your photos and edit them on a computer, GIMP is a really great free Photoshop alternative program that you can use. I personally don't use it anymore. I just use Photoshop because that's what I know the best. One of my favorite photographers of all time, Rosie Hardy, actually edits all of her images using GIMP, so I would direct you to her for all of your resource and inspiration on the things that you can use with even free software as well. I will go ahead and show you guys the finished results of the images right now. Wow, so exciting. So I hope this video gave you a little bit of inspiration towards your own self-portrait endeavors. You absolutely do not need to have a fancy camera or fancy lighting equipment in order to make really cool, fun images. So thank you so much for watching. Please let me know if you have any questions or comments or anything at all. I'm happy to answer them and help in any way that I can. If you make any images with your phone inspired by this, definitely tag me in them. I'd love to see them. It's super fun to see what you guys all create too. And so thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a really wonderful week. Stay safe, wash your hands, and stay indoors, and I'll see you next time. Bye!